Hello there, my name is Ray. I'm with Team S.T.E.A.M. and today I'm working on a project that's been sitting around my shop for almost a couple full years now. Now what you're looking at here is a very old, it's well over 100 years old, very used and very beat up, antique, upright food and beverage cooler. And this showed up and it had layers of bad bodywork in it and layers of completely cracked paint over the top of that. So I went ahead and put some stripper on it, and it took days of reapplying stripper and taking it down. But as you can see, this whole side's caved in. And I mean, pretty good. If you look at the side profile, it's in well over an inch. And you know, you got a big dent here. There's big dents all the way across the front of the door. Now I can take the doors off of it and go ahead and start getting some of these dents addressed. I'm going to be using a pin spotter to pull some of this out because this is just caved in and you can't get to it from the inside. There's an inner layer in there. So I need to use a pin spotter to get some of this pulled out. As you can see, it's mangled right here. Big dent right here. This entire lid, it probably doesn't show it well on film at all because it's so covered in dust. This thing's been sitting around my shop for a couple of years now, but it's absolutely mangled and deformed. As I mentioned, big areas. Just, it's more mangled than it's not. I don't think there's a square inch on this thing that's straight. At this point, what I'm going to go ahead and do is take these two doors off. You have this upper door, this is where your ice goes. And you have the lower door here. This is where your food and beverages go on a little turntable. And as you can see, there's an inner wall. So I can't get in there to knock any of these dents out. So these big dents, like this guy right here, I'm gonna have to use a pin spotter and pull it out that way. Okay, now I've got the lid off. Here's the hinges for the lid and the screws that'll go to it as well. And I've got the handle off here as well. And we suffered a casualty there. I want to go ahead and use, I hope I have a small enough easy out because I want to just drill right through the middle of that and use an easy out to get that out of there. Because these are all threaded, probably threaded holes into plates that have been possibly pinch welded or something like that on the back side of this. Either way, I want to take advantage of the fact that it is still threaded. This is brass, so the threads will be somewhat protected. So I'm gonna go ahead and easy out that one, and then I can start working on this guy. Now I'm getting ready to take out these two hinges and take off this door latch here. And you'll notice that this hinge right here has been worn all the way through in that spot, almost completely through from years and years of bearing the weight of this door. So when I go back together with this, since they're identical, I'm gonna go ahead and put this one on the bottom. That way this one, which has never seen a bit of wear on this side of the hinge, can now start bearing the weight, and this one can take a rest. And so what I'll be using to begin with is this pin spotter gun. It's just these little copper nodes that go here in the end. And then you weld them through an electrical current that goes through the gun itself to the spot on the dent that you want to pull. Once it's welded, then you go ahead and take this slide hammer and hook it on the end of that pin, and it'll pull the dent out to some degree until the pin breaks or something else. And this will be the only dent that I'll be using the pin spotter on. This thing is covered in dents, even some good sized ones, and just mangled in other spots. I mean, just mangled. That looks like a bag of marbles. All of this, all the way through here. All of this looks like a giant bag of marbles. And above it, another big ding. Here was creased heavily and then beat back out. You know, same here. Looks like a big old bag of marbles. Same with down here. This is nothing but bent and twisted metal carnage. So the idea is that you take one of these copper pins, you place it in here, in the end of the gun. Then you place the gun, as you can see I've got one in there already. in the spot where you wish to have another pin. And you're going to want to keep these pins somewhat close together. So let's just say right here. Then it welds it to it. All right, now I've got a few pins in there. Now I'm going to go ahead and take this slide hammer and attach it and start manipulating this this dent back out of there. See how that pulled that back out? Now you don't want to go too far. All that will do is create this extra hard little metal kind of point on there that's going to stick out beyond your bodywork, and it'll be impossible to beat back in because it's been hardened. And at this point, this is pulled out enough that you don't want to overdo it. It's pulled out enough that it's regained its shape. Now I'm going to go ahead and cut these little guys off and begin prepping everything for bodywork. And now at this point, that dent is basically removed. I mean, this isn't dent free, it's all dented up, but that big part of the dent, the part that was in a full inch, as you can see from the side profile, is not in really at all anymore. Now all I need to do is prep all this for bodywork and basically cover the entire thing in bodywork. But anyway, when you get in here and try and work on something like this, this old or something that's meant to be light and mobile, and this is both. This was built in 1905, and it was meant to be light, so they used the thinnest material they could come up with. And literally anywhere I want to push on this metal, it pushes in. It's that thin. It is so thin. It's slightly thicker than ductwork. That's seriously how thin it is. So thin you almost can't work with it. And that's why it's had so much damage before. Every time this thing gets tipped over into something or leans against something, it dents. Because that metal is so, like I said, slightly thicker than ductwork. And somebody has gotten in here many, many times in the past, or on one occasion, and did it a bunch. I mean, I don't know how many times somebody's been in here, but there's been a lot of intrusion. And as I'll show you here, this is where all these little points are where somebody used a pin spotter and pulled it out. And that's fine. It's what I just did. It's what you do. But the problem is many of them are out too far. Many of them, that's a problem with pin spotting, is people tend to start thinking after they've pulled a few little dings out that they can get it super close just with a pin spotter. And you can't. What's going to happen is you're going to go past, and then you're going to have this extra hard. It's considerably harder steel because it's been not only bent, which affects its metallurgy, but also heated, which affects its metallurgy. So these have been both. So these little guys here, they're hard. They're very hard steel. When you go tapping on them with a shrinking hammer, all of this around it is what's going to go down. Not this, all of this. So you can do a lot more damage by pulling them too far with a pin spotter, because by the time you knock it back in, you've got a lot more filler and a lot more manipulation going on there. You could pop the entire dent back in by accident just by hitting one or more of these little outie spots too hard to try and get the middle part to dent in, to try and get the very tip to recede. But you can't, because it's hardened. So everything around it's going to recede. So you got to keep that in mind if you're ever pin spotting. Don't go too far with it. And so I've been going around it with my shrinking hammer and my hand and just feeling all of these potentially troublesome spots and tapping them in as need be with the shrinking hammer. Get as close as I can. I don't need a bunch of those spots poking up through my bodywork. Either they're going to poke up through the bodywork and show up, or you have to build the bodywork up around them, which means it's not accurate. It's mounted in one spot to go over the top of some little metal point, you know. And so rather than do that and try and beat it in after the bodywork's been applied, I'd rather try and get it all first. Now here's that top lid, and I've gone ahead and just lightly sanded over the top of this kind of embossed or pressed in lettering here. And as you can see, This is a 1905 model that was patented in 1906. And this side of it has its own set of secrets. A little bit of rust here, a little bit of rust here, a lot of rust here. You can actually just push this in. This pushes easily. So all this is going to have to be knocked in with a shrinking hammer and have a big fiberglass patch put over the top of it. This over here is all dished in, all of it, badly. So I'm going to be able to clean this up, put a little fiberglass patch on each one, and they're going to be buried under bodywork anyway. There's going to be some bodywork on the top of this because, like I said, it's pushed in a long way and I can't pull all this out. Okay, now I've got a couple layers of bodywork on it. This is the most recent. That's why I went ahead and colored it red. I haven't begun glazing yet. This is all just bodywork. But all the initial bodywork on the vessel portion of it is now completed. Now over here, I haven't sanded or done anything with these yet. You can see the door needs a lot of work. You can see these holes are where somebody used a pin spotter, and that's their pin pulled out of the metal. And when a pin pulls out of the metal, it leaves a hole. And that's why there were so many holes in that too. And that's why there's a few holes in this. Somebody tried using a pin spotter before on this. And this, look how far down in there I've shoved that. I've just pushed this down and then shrunk it all up, beat it all to heck with my shrinking hammer to get it all to go in at least 1/8 of an inch so I can put a big fiberglass patch on it. And then I'm going to start on my prep and my body work for this, and I'll include this in that body work once the fiberglass is cured out. And here, I've got the glazing all in place. Just have a little bit of touch up here and there. And then this thing will be ready for primer. Okay, here's that patch. I've got it all grounded and ready for body work. You see some other little spots here that, as you can see, they're also beginning to rot out quite a few places. And here I'm doing just the last of the patching on the body work on the top of this. Other than that, the initial body work is done. This is the second layer of body work on this guy. I'll be sanding it here in just a second. Okay, so all the body work is done here. All the body work, all the glazing, all the details. I'm going to take these feet off. They've had zero prep yet, so I'm going to take them off. But other than that, this is ready for wet sanding primer. This lid is completely ready finally for a wet sanding primer. This door is ready for wet sanding primer. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and get a good heavy couple coats of primer on all three of these items. All right, so here it is the next day. We got primer on these guys yesterday, primer on the main vessel yesterday, and I took the feet off of the vessel, and I still have to prep them. I still have to prep the inside of the top there, but other than that, this is mostly ready for its final sanding, and then we can get on to priming and painting it as well. And so among the tasks that I need to complete to finish this job out entirely, I also need to get all this brass cleaned up, and that's going to be one of the next things I work on. Now here I'm just getting ready to finish sanding this lid that I primed here, and I've got it flipped over on this piece of cardboard, and notice that there's some more holes on this side that have rusted all the way through. So what I've done is I've tapped these in with a shrinking hammer after I prepped them with 24 grit, and now I'm going to go ahead and put fiberglass patches here and here as well. Okay, so now here this fiberglass is good and cured out, and I've just roughly trimmed it to about where it needs to be. Now I'm going to go ahead and abrade this paint and see how it feathers back. And I got all of these feet covers all stripped down. Just did it with a DA sander, I think 180 grit. There's all 4 of them, and now they're ready to prime and paint as they are. I got my fiberglass work all prepped. I got all of the body work done, got it all glazed. This was just full of dents. It was just everywhere I looked was another dent and another ding and another dent. So I just went ahead and did body work over the entire thing, except for this middle spot. I didn't want any body work in here at all, even though there is a dent right there. Other than that, we redid the whole thing here, and now I'm going to go ahead and get some wet sanding primer on it as well. All right, now I've got these guys laid out here on this kind of makeshift table, and I'm going to get some wet sanding primer on both of them. The inside of this is, as you can see, it had primer on it, or paint, and I sanded it down as far as I could go, all the way to the galvanized beneath it. But as you can see in a lot of places, see that weird kind of pattern? It almost looks like runs, but it's not. It's just whatever pattern was in the galvanized when this was made. It just happens to be there, but it kind of resembles runs. So if I just paint over it the way it is for that rustic look, it's gonna look like I have runs in my material. So instead, I'm going to wet sand it, get it on there good and heavy, sand it all out tomorrow so it's good and smooth, because I don't want it to look like I had poor workmanship on the inside of the door here. And then I'll, like I said, wet sand prime this and get this sanded tomorrow as well. And so I finished up that body work and got both these guys primed yesterday afternoon. Now here today, I'm going to go ahead and sand both of these, flip them over, make sure that they're all sanded and finished on the other side, and then figure out a way to hang them up so I can get them in paint. All right, got the inside of this all sanded and all scratched, blown off, ready to go. The outside, 100% sanded, scratched, blown off, ready to go. Sanded both sides of this and gotten them 100% ready to go. They're ready for primer. This is the front door. This is the top lid, 100% ready for primer, both sides. And then over here I have those feet, or roller covers, and that pan that goes up in the top part of it, and then this little dipstick that was in it as well that I'm going to paint. And at this point I'm going to go ahead and get some beige epoxy primer on everything, let that get cured out, so then we can look at getting this guy in some paint today. All right, now at this point, got everything all primed up. It's all been cured out. It's all sat for quite a while. Now I'm going to go ahead and get some latex paint on it. And what I'm using on this is Benjamin Moore. It's one of the brands that I trust. It's a soft gloss, so in other words, it's like a satin. And that's what we want. The owner wanted this to look really old. And so I did some mild cleaning to the brass hinges and components, and didn't shine them up or anything. And we're going to use a satin or a low gloss finish to this. And this is going to be the color right here, which is a historic color. And it's for exterior, and it's their, you know, their highest quality. Well, here it is the next morning, and this acrylic paint had all night to go ahead and sit and cure out. And I know yesterday I called it latex paint because I just assumed it was, but when I looked on the can, it actually is listed as acrylic. And then when you smell it as you're spraying it, it doesn't smell anything like latex. But anyway, it's all shot, it's all cured out. Now I'm going to look it over here before I decide to unmask anything. If there's anything that I need to deal with, I'm going to go ahead and get it unmasked and start getting some of this hardware put back on. Okay. All right, now I'm going to put the lock on the door first. It's actually the door handle and the lock, the same mechanism. And as you can see by the patina, all I did was get the other paint off of it. I didn't shine it up at all. We wanted this, the owner wants this whole thing to look old. I got some of the corrosion off of some of the ends of the screws, but other than that, okay, now as I mentioned, I'm going to take the hinge that was the bottom hinge before, and I'm going to move it to the top because as you know, this one's good and worn out. And at this point, I'm going to go ahead and install the hinges for the lid. And at this point, we're going to put the handle on it. Now here's that tray that's going to go inside of here in just a second. And here's this. You can see it was all chewed up in a few spots. But it's all been prepped and sealed, and it's ready to go as well. Well, all right, that about does it for this guy. Let's walk around it and have us a look. All right, so this is a 1905 White Frost brand motorless freezer or standing cooler. You can see we got the dipstick, took it out of there to do it. We got that tray both sides. Got the inside all prepped, primed and painted. The underside of that had holes in it that I filled with fiberglass, and it had a million dents in it. Now it's all looks original again. And the inside, as you can see, is untouched and still in great shape. Somebody else had done that prior to our getting together on this particular project. Did the inside of the door. Everything works as it should. Replace the top hinge with the bottom hinge, so now this opens and closes nice and tight. It's not slack like it was when it showed up. Bent and tweaked all these feet to get them back into shape. Took them off to do it. No dents, no dings, no misshapen anything, no scrapes, no chips. When it showed up, it was nothing but a mangled mess. It looked like somebody with a 10-foot long hand grabbed it and went like that with it and then threw it on the ground. I mean, it was absolutely beat, and only slightly thicker than ductwork is. So it was really tough to work with. But it's all done now, and it's ready for its owner to go ahead and put it out on the deck and have some summer fun with it. So this guy's likely going to be leaving here in a few days, and this guy here has already been under our knife for a few days, and we're going to continue on it until we get it banged out. Hey, if you like this video, you should take the time to hit the like button. That's going to help me grow this channel. And if you want to see more what goes on around here, you should check me out at Facebook at Flash Industrial Painting. And if you want to see more videos like this one, or domestic auto body, or truck auto body, or gardening, or art, or any of the many things we do around here, you might as well just take the time to hit the subscribe button while you're at it, because, you know, we always got something going on. We'll see you guys around.